Hi everyone, I'm Connie Roberts.
And I'm Jim Skokoza.
Welcome to Pocono Landscape Challenge.
You know, you've watched us create beautiful landscapes over the past 2 decades. We thought it'd be kind of a special treat today to take you on a tour through our garden center and see some of the beautiful things we have here.
Welcome to the garden center.
We're here in beautiful downtown Broadwell, and we've been here for 47 years, and I really would like to take you on a tour and see where all our plants come from and all the varieties of plants that we have here, trees, shrubs, perennials, and the things that we use on a lot of the jobs that we do. So let's go and take a tour.
Jim, the colors here in the nursery are spectacular.
Well, you know, this is our favorite time of the year. Spring, we've got so much going on and so much color and variety, shapes and sizes. It's just a lot of fun, and you'll see as you come, if you visit us a couple times, we'll see that we're always constantly changing. We're bringing in new material all the time. Of course, this time of the year in the spring, everybody's all about color. So we have a ton of annuals here in all different sizes, all different varieties, depending on sun, shade, all those things. And we can guide you through that process. But just a beautiful selection. We work with some tremendous growers that have some very high quality material. We've been working with them for years. And so we know we can really rely on the material that they send up here to us. And we know that you as a homeowner are going to be successful in planting those materials.
Enjoy them all season.
Absolutely. But it's a great way with the annuals to bring in additional color that's going to color up your gardens or your beds all throughout the growing season. As opposed to some of the shrubs, even the flowering shrubs or the flowering trees, they have a limited bloom time. So you use the annuals as a way to just continue to bring that color throughout the garden.
Jim, I really like the snapdragon flowers because they bring in the butterflies and the hummingbird.
Well, they're pretty too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So, you know, back in the day, we said 47 years, everybody had marigolds and patience, petunias, and maybe some begonias. That was basically your array of flowering plants for the garden in terms of bringing in some annual color. Now we have so many new varieties, proven winter varieties, specialty varieties, and we're making some of these beautiful combinations of colors and the way that those particular plants grow in the garden. So you have a lot more to choose from today than we did a number of years ago. But you know, the other way we see a lot of use in these particular flower plants is in the use of container gardens. So we may have talked about this before, but especially in an area where you have deer prevalent, it's really difficult to plant some of these flowers and not have the deer eat them unless you're going to spray for them or protect them in some way. So a lot of folks are doing more and more of the container gardens where they can take these containers, put them up on a deck, put them on a patio closer to the house where hopefully the deer are not going to come at them. And you can really do a great job of mixing colors and experimenting. And every year you can change it up. So container gardening has become very, very popular for us here. And we have such a great selection to choose from, of course. And it just makes it interesting, makes it just colorful, and it's just kind of fun because, again, each season you could take that same container and do an entirely different mix of plants for a totally different look.
It's a do-it-yourself project.
Exactly.
Weird.
Yeah, you get a lot of pleasure out of doing that. So we get a kick out of working with a lot of our customers. They'll talk to us about a container they have or an area they have, take pictures, and we can guide them as to what would work in there, how many plants they would need, that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like the ones that cascade down too.
Well, yeah, you got all kinds of potato vines and different vines that will cascade, especially if you've got taller planters. And you just pop them in there, give them a little liquid fertilizer, water them regularly, and before long, it's just a massive color, and it's just great fun.
You know, Jim, I really like to have basil and thyme, some of those herbs close by the house in containers.
It's another great use of the containers, and we're seeing more and more of that. You can have those herbs in pots outside a kitchen window or nearby the door, and they're accessible to you. And a lot of these things will go well into the season, so you can use them. You can take things like rosemary or thyme or something. At my house, we're still picking thyme off in December. So you can get a lot of use out of the herbs that way, especially if you're into seeing some cooking with the fresh herbs. We're seeing more combinations of things. My wife just planted up some pottery or some planters with beans, string beans. And we put a pole in there and then just gonna have the string beans coming up. So there's really no reason why you couldn't do that, with the exception of maybe zucchini. I don't think you want to put that in a pot. But there's so many things you can do with the herbs and with the vegetable plants, obviously with tomatoes. And it's another great use and a way of containing and not making a huge garden in your backyard that you've got to maintain and weed and till constantly. It's so much easier to put this stuff in the pots and just enjoy them that way.
So people also talk about soil, like tomato soil. There's soil for tomatoes, and then there's garden soil for other vegetables.
Yeah, there's several different mixes of soil that we sell here at the garden center. One is more appropriate than the other in terms of what you're putting into that pot. So our folks can help guide you with that. And then, of course, you want to give it some fertilizer, too. And the most important thing is remember that when it's in a pot like that, it'll have a tendency to dry out a little quicker than if it was planted in the ground. So you really do have to pay attention to the watering. If it's a tomato plant, you're going to need to put a cage in that pot because that thing will just bend over the side of the pot, the branch will break. So you just have to think ahead a little bit. But it's a fun way to have a great garden, producing garden, that you don't have all that mechanical work all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Coming up next, Jim talks about bloom time. First Northern Bank & Trust is your local loan specialist for both personal and business needs. Our local decision makers offer fast approvals and customized financial solutions, helping you reach your goals. First Northern Bank & Trust combines friendly service with the latest technologies to make banking quick, easy, and convenient. We continue to grow in Carbon, Lehigh, Monroe, and Northampton counties. Serving you with 11 local branches, First Northern Bank & Trust, member FDIC, equal housing lender. And now, a message from R.J. Groner.
UV light system, ultraviolet light or ultraviolet germicidal lights, which are designed to kill the bacteria, the viruses, the molds, the things that are in your airstream that you're breathing every day. So especially when you're locked in the summer because it's hot and you're running your air conditioning, or in the wintertime, you want a way to filter and clean that air. So these products that are on the market nowadays are fantastic at doing that job and relatively affordable.
Whether it's an installation or emergency repair, call us at 570-421-7260.
Sonia's Sweet Inspirations will help you blow your guests away with elegant cakes, cute cupcakes, specialty desserts, and more. Reader's Choice Award winner for Best Wedding Cakes. Sonia's Sweets are just that, sweet. Stop by North 9th Street, Stroudsburg to try a new fresh dessert today. So come by to Sonia's Sweet Inspirations at North 9th Street, Stroudsburg. Check us out at soniassweetinspirations.com and follow us on Facebook.
At Chestnut Hill Nursery, we have the area's best and largest selection of plants. Whether you're looking for annuals to add seasonal color to your garden, perennials for enjoyment year after year, or trees and shrubs, look no further. Our quality and value is unmatched. Shop our 2 for $60 flowering shrub sale for gorgeous plants at an exceptional value. Browse through our huge selection of jumbo perennials and gorgeous flowering annuals. Isn't it time you had the garden you always wanted? Stop into Chestnut Hill Nursery, Route 209, Broadheadsville, where great gardens begin.
Well, welcome back. Listen, I was just talking with Connie about some of the planting that she does at her house in regard to vegetables. And you have a bunch of raised gardens, don't you?
We have a raised garden, and I was going to say, this is a great example right here, what you have in the nursery here, because we do the same thing. We've planted
companion plants, yeah.
Yes, we've planted some tomato plants, and we actually planted some herbs there as well.
Right.
And some lettuce around the tomatoes, because they're going to grow quicker and faster and be done before the tomatoes are up and high, ready to go. So this is great because we just are doing this. It's a great thing for people to come in and look at this and prepare and buy and do it yourself project and do their own garden. You know, raised garden's not that hard to do.
No, and it's a little easier on the bending over too, right?
Yes.
But it's important because sometimes you have to watch what you mix together, but a lot of these plants really are beneficial to each other. So it's important to kind of keep that in mind, particularly if you're doing raised planters, or even if you're doing it in the ground, you want to make sure there's a separation or companion plants close by.
Right.
It helps with a lot of things. You know, and of course the other thing too is, I'm sure you fertilize, so you probably have really good soil there. Very important. You know, we have a number of soil products here that work really well in the garden. If it's in a raised bed, we might suggest something a little bit different. They all need some fertilizer. We have specific fertilizers for different plantings to make you more successful, give you a better yield. And in the end, you're just going to have more fruit and vegetables to eat.
That's what we all love.
Give away to all your neighbors.
Wow, Jim, there's a lot of color here.
Yeah. So this is our perennial area. okay? So just to clarify for folks at home who are just unaware, a lot of confusion sometimes between annuals and perennials. So annuals are like we looked at earlier, the marigolds and the petunias and all those. They die off at the end of the season and you have to replant them each year, okay? But they're going to give you color throughout the entire growing season. Perennials, on the other hand, they have a specific bloom time. And a lot of times what you want to do with perennials is time your plants so that they're blooming in succession in your garden, okay? But perennials, they die down at the end of the year, the end of the growing season, and then they come back the following year. So it's kind of a once and done planting. Doesn't mean you can't move them around. And the other thing about perennials that people should understand is that as time goes on, after a couple of years, 3-4 years into the garden in that one place, typically you want to dig your perennials up and divide them. Otherwise they get very root bound and they don't like to grow that way for long. So the only other thing with perennials is you do have to dig them up, divide them, but basically you're planting them the one time. So when you in your garden, you want to think about what should I put in this area? What's my light conditions? Sunshade, is it wet soil? Is it dry soil? What other companion plants are in the area? What's the bloom time? And a lot of the perennials that we have, it's not just about the blooms, but also the foliage color. You look behind you, there's coral bells here. We probably have 7 or 8 varieties of coral bells, from green leaf to purple leaf to plum to orange to yellow. So you can get a lot of color that way, even though the bloom time on those particular plants is very short-lived.
Right. Okay. And some are smaller, medium, and larger.
Yeah, and they spread. So it makes good color. Hosta is a great one. I mean, there's probably hundreds of varieties of hosta, depending on where you're putting them and what the placement is and where you're putting them in the garden specifically. But then you've got things like catmint. Number one, the deer don't eat it. It flowers all summer long. That's one that once you get it planted, we suggest that after it blooms, you kind of cut it back and then it will regrow and put out a whole nother set of blooms. So it's kind of a fun thing to do. But there's so many to choose from depending on where you're at in the garden or what you're trying to accomplish, and also a color scheme. We offer smaller variety plants so that a little bit of a savings this way. You can buy 5 of these plants for $50. I mean, it's a great deal. Then we also have our jumbo perennials. They're much larger, they're a couple of years older, and they're going to give you initial impact in your garden. A lot to choose from.
Jim, you talked about bloom time. With perennials, which ones maybe bloom longer?
Well, there are several varieties. Things like, this right behind you, this is sage. So this will come out in a real big flush of blooms, and then it kind of just groups over. But if you go to this plant and cut it back, it'll regenerate and put out another set of blooms. So the thing is, there's a little bit of work with perennials. If you're willing to do that, you'll get multiple bloom periods out of something like this. There are daylilies like Stelladora daylilies, or there's a yellow one as well that's a rebloomer. Now, it won't bloom as heavy the second time around, but it does rebloom, which is kind of great in the landscape. We talked about catmint earlier. Great plant. We'll see it everywhere now. It's become very popular. We use it a lot in our landscape because it gives us an opportunity to bring color throughout the entire season into an area in the beds that we create that have a very limited maintenance involved, and you don't have to replant every year. And the big benefit is the deer don't eat it. So it's great. There are a bunch of things like that you could do. But again, if you come and talk to the garden center staff, they can help guide you in the process of picking plants that may be rebloomers, that if you have sun, this is the plants that you want to use. If it's a shady area, you want to use things like a stilby or hosta or coral bells.
Up next, what is the most requested plant?
One of the things that homeowners usually experience in this area is an emergency after normal business hours. Could be a weekend, could be a night, could be the 4th of July, could be Christmas, could be Easter, could be any holiday. You call RJ Groner Company, 2 things are going to happen. 1, you're going to get a live person on the phone. Number 2, you're going to get a technician out to your house 24/7. Go right to our website, rjgroner.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can call or text us at 570-421-7260. We'll always get a live person to answer your questions. We'll get an appointment scheduled, and we'll get one of our technicians out to you.
Community. It's where we work. It's where we play. It's where you'll find First Northern Bank and Trust, offering community banking services. First Northern Bank and Trust is a family-owned and operated bank. Our local decision makers offer fast approvals and customized financial solutions. Plus, we keep your money right here in the community, stimulating local economic growth and providing jobs for our friends and neighbors. First Northern Bank and Trust, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Sonia's Sweet Inspirations will help you blow your guests away with elegant cakes, cute cupcakes, specialty desserts, and more. Reader's Choice Award winner for Best Wedding Cakes. Sonia's Sweets are just that, sweet. Stop by North 9th Street, Stroudsburg to try a new fresh dessert today. So come by to Sonia's Sweet Inspirations at North 9th Street, Stroudsburg. Check us out at soniassweetinspirations.com and follow us on Facebook.
So Jim, tell me, what is the most requested plant?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question, but thinking about that, there's a lot of things that come into play depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish in your garden. If you're trying to do screening, there's certain plants for that. We're now in the shrub area, so we've got lots and lots of shrubs here, a plethora of shrubs. Most of them flowering. If they're not flowering, they give something like, evergreens like this that give you color without flowers, and this is going to give you color all year long because they are evergreens. Most of the flowering shrubs that you see on this side have a limited bloom time, and they also lose their leaves in the wintertime to deciduous, but they give a great show of color in the spring and early summer, and some of them in late summer. So we get a lot of requests for, honestly, the biggest thing is, what's going to give me color all the time, and what don't the deer eat? It's a tough one. It's a really tough one. Anything that blooms, again, is going to have a limited bloom time unless it's an annual. Unless you're getting the color out of the foliage, the color is going to be, in terms of bloom, is going to be a limited time frame. And then the deer, that's just a whole nother situation here in the Poconos. There's the palette of material that the deer eat now is just, virtually they eat most of anything. There are things that they don't: spruce, juniper, cypress, ornamental grasses, barberry, a few of the other plants that they just don't like at all. Boxwood is another one. But outside of that, sometimes you're taking a risk. And really the thing to be successful there is to really know what your situation is there. If you are in an area where you have herds of deer coming through, you're probably not going to be successful with some of the plant material here. However, if you get an occasional deer, something like that, or they're in the neighborhood, there are things that you can do and plant these plants, and you can spray for them. There are good repellents out there available now. You can put up some temporary fencing so they don't munch on them. So there are things you can do to be able to expand your palette and get more of an opportunity to bring different foliage and different color into your garden. We're doing so much more with hydrangeas. There's some fantastic hydrangeas. We find that the hydrangeas, even in deer areas, sometimes they just don't bother them, but other times they do. So it's knowing what your situation is really all about. And if you can protect them early on by spraying, a lot of time, deer are very much creatures of habit. So if you can deter them from eating them originally, a lot of times they'll just won't bother with them at all. But every site is kind of unique in that respect. So we try to guide folks on picking shrubs that the deer don't really like, start with that as a palette, and see where we can add some other color items. So maybe they're not trying to protect the entire planting bed, but maybe only some specific plants. So you can be successful that way too. But there's just so many plants to choose from, whether it's evergreen or flowering. And of course, we get a wide selection of trees, from maples to cherries and all kinds of stuff like that. Just a ton to choose from. I mean, it's just, people walk in here and just lose time because you just walk around and look at the tags and talk to the staff here because they're so excited about some of the things that we're showcasing here. It's a lot of fun to watch people shop in our gardens.
Well, plus they get excited. They see a little evergreen and like, oh, that's so cute. That's going to look great next to our house.
That's a good point.
And they grow too big, right?
I can't tell you how many job sites I've been on where they take a blue spruce tree that comes in maybe that size, okay, and they put it right off the corner of the house. Well, that tree gets to be 60 to 80 feet tall.
Right.
Totally inappropriate.
Right.
So that's why it's really important to talk to somebody with knowledge, a local garden center like ourselves that really can guide you. Do not plant that plant in the corner. It belongs out in the yard somewhere. Same thing with things like lilac. You can't put a lilac up against the house. It needs to be out in the yard where it's got full sun and room to grow. Everybody looks at these small plants and say, oh, they're so very cute, I'll just put 5 of these in. It just doesn't work out, because before you know it, you're cutting them down because you made a mistake when you planted them originally. So that's why it's really important to get good advice. to understand what these plants are going to grow into, how to take care of them so you can be successful. The one thing we know here in the Poconos, people don't like to dig holes. So we want them to be successful the first time so they don't have to dig another hole to replant the shrub that died.
Jim, I know people use these evergreens as like a natural fencing.
Natural fence, correct. Yeah, or for screening, depending on what the situation. Could be screening for a view, could be screening if you have a neighbor nearby that you just want to screen off. They work really well for that. The arborvitaes grow generally tall and narrow. You don't need a lot of width or space to do those. A couple of different varieties. This is emerald green. We have green giant. Green giant has proven to be really deer resistant so far. The emerald greens, you got to be careful. If you have deer in the area, it's probably not the right plant for you. And so there's different ways you can do that. You know, while we're here, you can see all the grasses that we have. The grasses have become very, very popular. We probably have 15 to 20 different varieties, and they come in different heights, different sizes. Some are variegated leaves, some are green. They all get plumes later in the season, and we love that. I mean, we try to encourage folks not to cut them down until the springtime, because you do have to cut them down. This way you can enjoy the plumes even when the snow comes and you see the snow falling and the plumes are there. Kind of enjoyable to watch. So great selection, and the deer absolutely will not eat any of the ornamental grasses. So another thing you can use in the garden, you know. So really the best thing to do is to really think about if you've got a garden that you want to plant, whether it's a foundation garden somewhere out in the backyard if you want, is to do a mix of plants. Some shrubs, some colorful shrubs, whether it's flowering or foliage, some perennials, some annuals. You know, mix that up, some grasses, so that you can be pretty successful instead of just having one of everything or one of all the same variety. Don't be afraid of the deer, experiment a little bit, but start with plants that we know that the deer are not going to tackle. And then try to add in little bits and pieces so that you wind up with a very colorful garden throughout most of the growing season.
I think I saw a peach tree back there, Jim. Let's go look. And they have peaches on them. Look at them all.
How do you like that? So we have a great grower of the fruit trees that we sell here at the garden center. And you can see most of these trees have peaches on them. Some of the apple trees will have apples on them shortly. We still have a selection left here. They go pretty fast. This is probably sold more than half of them already at this point. But if you're looking to do a fruit tree garden in the backyard and have some fruit to pick, come and get these trees. They're really great trees.
Nice.
Still ahead, we'll see a new addition to the nursery. First Northern Bank and Trust is your local loan specialist for both personal and business needs. Our local decision makers offer fast approvals and customized financial solutions, helping you reach your goals. First Northern Bank and Trust combines friendly service with the latest technologies to make banking quick, easy, and convenient. We continue to grow in Carbon, Lehigh, Monroe, and Northampton counties, serving you with 11 local branches. First Northern Bank and Trust, member FDIC, equal housing lender. And now, a message from R.J. Groner.
UV light system, ultraviolet light or ultraviolet germicidal lights, which are designed to kill the bacteria, the viruses, the molds, the things that are in your airstream that you're breathing every day. So especially when you're locked in the summer because it's hot and you're running your air conditioning, or in the wintertime, you want a way to filter and clean that air. So these products that are on the market nowadays are fantastic at doing that job and relatively affordable.
Whether it's an installation or emergency repair, call us at 570-421-7260.
At Chestnut Hill Nursery, we have the area's best and largest selection of plants. Whether you're looking for annuals to add seasonal color to your garden, perennials for enjoyment year after year, or trees and shrubs, look no further. Our quality and value is unmatched. Shop our 2 for $60 flowering shrub sale for gorgeous plants at an exceptional value. Browse through our huge selection of jumbo perennials and gorgeous flowering annuals. Isn't it time you had the garden you always wanted? Stop into Chestnut Hill Nursery, Route 209, Broadheadsville, where great gardens begin.
Jim, this is all new in here.
Yeah, isn't this great? So for years, folks have been asking us about houseplants, and we never really carried them. And so this year we decided, we put up some new lights, we put up some shelving, so we brought in a whole bunch of houseplants and associated products like some of the pottery and things. And it's been going great. People love it. Every day people walking out with plants in here. We're getting new stuff all the time, so it's a lot of fun.
Jim, it's been fun taking the tour. You know, I always get inspired when I come here. I want one of everything, and I want to go home and do a whole bunch of new stuff.
Like I said, it's really fun watching the folks come in, shop around. Sometimes people will spend an hour or more in here, and they'll walk around with a cart and just one of these, two of those, and it's just a lot of fun to watch. And the thing about it is, you know, we probably have the best selection anywhere in the area by far. And we know all our growers. We know where the plants are coming from, how they were grown, who took care of them. We have shippers that directly ship to us from those growers. So we're really confident in the plants that we sell here. They're really good quality plants. And we know you're going to be successful if you follow our directions. We also have some great prices. You know, everybody thinks, well, the garden center, you always pays more than if you go to a big box store or something. It's not true. Go to a big box store, see what those offers are, and then come here and make a comparison to be pleasantly surprised. We have a great selection, we have great prices, we have knowledgeable staff that will guide you through your process and put you in the right place in terms of your plants and where they belong. We want you to be successful, and we want you to come back and buy more for another garden that you could do in your yard, or more annuals the next season. Just always something different here. We're constantly changing, rotating stock. We get trucks in here regularly with new material. And so if you come this week, then you come next week, you're going to see a lot of different material that you didn't see the previous week. So we encourage folks to come here on a regular basis.
You've been doing this a long time, so I think you know what you're doing.
Thanks.
Well, Jim, if people want more information, what should we tell them?
Well, it's Chestnut Hill Nursery right here on Route 209 in Bronxville. 570-992-5131 is our garden center number. We'd love to have you come down and shop around and walk around and get inspired.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time right here.